Hey guys, how's it going? This is a video response to sameoldji, who asks, what is your style? My preferred style of play is a very organic style of play. I like high collaboration, and I tend to enjoy it more when players have a good deal of narrative control. I like playing in scenes where I feel like that scene could have gone 100 different ways, and I enjoy running sessions and playing in sessions where I feel like that session could have gone 1,000 different ways. And I enjoy it when GMs facilitate that, and players facilitate that as well. They facilitate more possibilities in a game, because I feel like that's, to me at least, a very strong appeal to role-playing games, is that of course anything is possible. Well, anything within limits, anything that's not going to break the game. So I enjoy the facilitation of possibility in role-playing games. And I like very ensemble feel. I don't... Of course there are players that are more proactive and players that are not as active, but I prefer a very ensemble feel when everyone is contributing and the zeitgeist is defining the story. Not just the GM or not just the main player, but the collective consciousness of everyone at the table is going to define the story when all's said and done. I prefer improv over prep because I feel like it facilitates. Of course, a certain amount of prep is good and arguably necessary, but I feel like improv facilitates more options. But of course, the prep is good to keep things consistent, and of course, at the beginning of the campaign, to have your foundation to build off of and improv from there. That's probably my style as a GM. I prefer games and sessions of high dialogue, lots of social interaction, whether that be dramatic or comedic or simply getting to know the characters better. I usually prefer low action because I really like the action to be dramatic and to matter. And generally, of course, depending on genre, and there's a lot of factors, but generally speaking, the more you do combat, the more it's going to sort of be desensitized within the campaign. Of course, there's things like Game of Thrones that are really violent and constantly violent and still fairly shocking. Maybe not as shocking as it was originally, but Game of Thrones does a pretty good job of having lots of action and still keeping it interesting. But I prefer games of, I suppose, sort of a Tarantino style of high dialogue, followed by, perhaps very short, very intense action. And I tend to prefer, of course, depending on genre, but I tend to prefer lethal games. I tend to prefer games where there's no protection from the script. There's no assuming that just because you're the main character you're going to make it through. It makes it interesting and makes it fun, and it keeps me on the edge of my seat when I know that my character might die, or if I'm running a game when I know if unfortunately my favorite player character may die. That keeps me a lot more engaged than playing a game where you feel like it's a movie, or even a novel where you all but assume, of course, depending on genre again, but a lot of things you all but assume that the main character is going to make it through because they're the main characters. Maybe one may die, but that's probably about it. No, I like maybe by the end of the campaign, all the original main characters have died, and there's, a whole slew of other ones now. Again, I like the story to be defined by play, and after play has ended. I don't like to sit down and define the story as a GM, or even as a player. I don't like to get these preconceived notions in my head about how things are going to end up. I like it just let's play the game, and when all said and done, we'll look back and we'll see the story that we've created. We'll see, where it ended up. I prefer that style of play. And I think that just about covers it. As far as the genre, I'll have fun playing in just about any genre, but I tend to prefer games that are set in the real world, or a version of the real world, or even draw from real world legends or mythos to, create the setting for that game. Although I'm playing in a D&D game right now, and running a D&D game right now, and I'm having great fun doing that. So, like I said, I have fun doing just about any genre, but I tend to prefer games set in the real world and games that are, like I said, very lethal. Also, I really, it's almost a problem that I have. It seems I can only play Grayscale games. It's very hard for me to run or to play in a black and white game. I played World of Darkness and nothing but World of Darkness for, a couple of years. That was my introduction into the hobby, so that probably, of course, strongly flavored my perceptions of what gaming should be and what's fun and what's interesting to me. But when I was running DC Adventures for a while, and I was playing in DC Adventures for a while, and it's very hard for me to play in a game. And of course, when you're playing the comic book superhero genre, you can have moral quandaries, and you can have decisions that you have to make. But for the most part, they're still pretty black and white. At least, compared to the World of Darkness, where it's dark or darker. So that's something that, that's part of my style, is I like sort of noir style games. I like dark games. I'm playing in a Wraith Chronicle right now with Runeslinger, and that is, we've just had our prelude, but I'm really excited about it. See where it's going to go. But yeah, I can't really play in black and white games. And not for lack of trying. I mean, they don't interest me as much, but I need to get into them more, and I need to develop that skill. Pulp sort of being the exception. Pulp is fairly black and white. Sort of villains wear their emotions on their sleeves, their true intentions and what have you. And I think I'm pretty decent at running and playing in a pulp game. I can get on board with that. But yeah, Star Wars, I couldn't run that. It was too black and white. Too black and white for me. And the comic book superhero genre, I had trouble running and playing in that. I was even lobbying, as a player. I was like, when we get to, we gotta play the genre, you guys. It's superhero genre, and that's just what it is. We gotta play to it. And then, in the last session or whatever, we finally get to the Scarecrow, and instead of taking him in, my character's like, hey, you got a pretty good thing going on here. How about we make a deal? And that's how the campaign thus far has concluded, with us reaching the mastermind and becoming an ally with him instead of turning him in. And it's a superhero game, so that wasn't really appropriate of me to do, and possibly very anticlimactic for the other players. I don't know. I sort of made that decision or proposed that in character, and everyone else went along with it. So I need to learn how to play in black and white a little bit more, and in Grayscale a little bit. Well, not a little bit less, but I think I've got that down. But I need to play in black and white more. So I will conclude my rambling there. Thanks for throwing the video out there, sameoldji, and I look forward to seeing more content from you.